My name's Jane, and up until December 2014 I was a relatively healthy woman, and at the age of 44 I had a subarachnoid hemorrhage. I woke up in the middle of the night and I had a cold, so I thought maybe I'd just got a headache because I'd got a cold and I'd been coughing, but I couldn't even lift my head up from the pillow. And I thought, well, my first initial thought was, as a radiographer, I'm having a subarachnoid hemorrhage, and then I thought, oh, stop being a drama queen, it's just a headache, and tried to go back to sleep, but then it got much worse. Initially, the A&E nurses thought I just got a cold and that's why I got a headache, but then eventually when I did see an A&E doctor, he thought I just got viral meningitis, but they needed to do a CT scan of me and a lumbar puncture just to rule out a subarachnoid hemorrhage because I was over 40. So eventually I had a CT scan, and then about an hour later they came back and said, oh, we need to do another CT scan, but we need to give you contrast, so they had to put a needle in and all that palaver. And then eventually, it was probably about another hour later, I was moved from the A&E department to a short stay ward. And on my way, the doctor stopped us in the corridor and spoke to my mum and said, oh, we need to take Jane to a quiet place. And my first thought was, I've got an aneurysm, haven't I? And he said, yes, we need to transfer you to a neuro centre. And pretty much after that, I don't really remember much because it was all a bit of a shock. So I was transferred to a neuro hospital. So I was blue lighted in an ambulance. And then when I arrived at the other hospital, I had lots of people all around me, hooking me up to things, examining me. And then the next morning, so that was about midnight on the Saturday night. And then earlier that morning, then later on that morning, I had to go for another set of scans, and a neurointerventional radiologist came to see me and said, we need to sort you out today. So I then went down to theatre where I had embolisation of the aneurysm that I didn't know I had until then. I woke up and I was back on the neuro intensive ward, and I still had a headache, but then unfortunately I ended up with hospital acquired pneumonia, so then I had to go back into intensive care, so I got much worse. But then it was about 2 weeks later I was discharged from hospital, and everything was fine. I'm doing okay. I'm still not 100% of the person that I was beforehand, but I manage to hold down my job, cope with day-to-day life experiences. I do get tired all the time, but I work that into my daily routines, so I know that if I've got a heavy day at work, I'm not going to be awake enough to go out in the evening, or if I want to go out in the evening, I'll make sure I have a lighter day. Queen Square had a massive impact on my recovery because I was basically signed off by the NHS. Once you'd had your surgery, it's fine, you're mended. But actually what people don't know is that cognitively and psychologically, the damage it's done to you. So I felt like I wasn't the same person. So I came here and I had some really good treatment with one of the neurologists to help me through my cognitive disabilities that I now have, and also psychologically getting to terms with the fact that I'm not that person that I was before the hemorrhage, and realising that you suffered a near-death experience is something really, really hard to cope with, and the psychological help I got through Queen Square has been amazing. The future's good. I've finally decided that this is the year that I start to live my life again, because it's coming up to 3 years now. And I've been gradually working through the recovery, the psychological issues that I've had, but now I'm taking my life forward and living my best life. So I've always known as a radiographer that the signs and symptoms of a subarachnoid hemorrhage are a thunderclap headache. So it's literally like being hit over the back of the head with a baseball bat, and that's the kind of headache I had. So if you do feel like it's not a normal kind of headache for you, or if you start to feel like you are sensitive to the light and you feel sick and you've got neck stiffness, seek advice straight away. It's a medical emergency. There are amazing support groups out there. The Brain and Spine Foundation is one of the best ones because that gives you straight information about what you need. And there are also really good support groups on social media. So I found a lot of on Facebook, American groups mainly, but then the Brain and Spine Foundation have got its own forum now, and everyone shares their experiences. So you may think that you're just being, I don't know, you're not recovering quick enough, but actually everyone's recovering at the same speed. And you can, I've made a friend through the Brain and Spine Foundation, through the Facebook group, and we meet up and we share our experiences, and that's what things like that are there for, so that you don't feel like you're left alone.